Nathan, good to see you. It's been a while. How are you?
I'm fine. Yes, it has been a while, but it's good to be back to having a dialogue and discuss all the things which are going on, which are quite concerning.
You're absolutely right. Normally, when I sarcastically say what is going on, I'm not going to be sarcastic. I'm not going to say that. So let's get having a dialogue. Let's get into it. Okay, mon ami, you have sent me a bit of a funny a few minutes ago, but the problem is it isn't funny, especially when it involves the Daleks from I forget who does it because they're just
Doctor
brilliant.
Who.
Yeah, from Doctor Who, but the lot that had just done it, is it Crewthern or whatever that link is, absolutely brilliant. All of their stuff, but the dialogue's going. Have you got the brick card? Mon ami, take us in any direction that you wish to. It is alarming. In a few seconds, I'll say a comment about Starmer, Andy Burnham, and bring people who are not wise to what's going on. Then I'll bring people to wise about what's going on. I'm also grateful for people out there in the beautiful, wonderful country that we're trying to hang on to, that they make comments. I don't know if a load of these people are Christians or not, but they make comments and they are very, very awake, unlike the church that is fast asleep. And without me going into detail, illustrated by the fact that you attended a church recently where they said, "Oh, I've been listening to so-and-so, listening to so-and-so on this subject." And you turned around and said, "Well, I've written about that a few years ago." Just says it all to me. At times I find it, very depressing, because why are we actually having a conversation? But I think we're called to do that, to have the facts out there. I'll shut up. Nathan, over to you, my friend.
Well, I think like you mentioned, the brick card, the digital ID, we're rolling into, and the Home Secretary mentioned this last year. You sent me a clip earlier, which she discussed the AI panopticon.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know about the panopticon, it's by a gentleman called Bentham, and he created a prison where you had a central tower, and you give the illusion of the guard watching all the prisoners who are around him. You don't know if they're watching you, you don't know if they're surveying you. And so it makes you self-regulate, it makes you self-police, because you've got the illusion of being surveyed at all times. Well, within the digital panopticon which is coming, you will be surveyed at all times. That's the difference. The Bible talks about it in Revelation 13, about the time will come when you won't be able to buy or sell without a mark. And people have always thought, okay, what can this be? You can't buy or sell. Well, if you've got hard cash, you can always buy or sell. Or if you've got things you can barter with, you can always get something. But in that video clip you mentioned, I sent you, with the Daleks, and if you haven't got the ID card, then you can't. And there's a gentleman in there going, "I've got cash." No, your cash is no good. This is where we're going, because the digital currency, when that comes out, and this is a global thing. So this is just not the UK. This is all countries around the world are going for a digital ID. They're going for a digital currency. The digital currency will be programmable, which means that if you drive your car too much and you want to go fill up, you might have all the money in the bank to buy that, but because you've used your limit for mileage or for buying petrol, because it's programmable, you won't be able to buy any. Or you might have used your limit for buying too much red meat because you've eaten red meat, and that we know those cows, they give off this allegedly cow fart, which we shouldn't be doing, allowing them to. So they're feeding them full of these additives, which stops them from farting, which then who knows what that does to the food and to the milk. So the digital panopticon is far more pervasive and far more dangerous than people think. Everything you do will be watched, it'll be used, it'll be monitored. But when it's linked to your currency and linked to your basically a social credit score like China, then people need to wake up and look what's happening in China and how they can be surveyed, and also what they can and can't do. Because if your credit rating drops, then you can lose your job, because you're only allowed certain jobs if you've got a certain credit rating, and you can only live in certain areas. You can only travel abroad if you've got a good social credit. So this is something people need to wake up, but also they need to understand that fighting this through political means is really, while we've got to do certain things in the political system, we've got to understand that there's a spiritual battle going on. And the battle is not just for against good and evil, it's actually against the living God, the one true God. There is only one God. He sent his son to die for us, and against the one true God and the devil. And they're waging war for the throne of God and the souls of humanity. And if people just read the Bible, we're seeing what the Bible prophesied would happen in the end of the age happening, or the stage is being set for a final showdown. Well, the good news is we know who wins. Jesus returns and sorts out the devil. But sadly, it talks about many people will die. Many people will acquiesce and actually lose their, walk away from their faith in the one true God, or because they don't want to, they want to have food, they want resources, they want these things. But many people who don't know God, they won't think this thing is happening. People need to wake up. People need to read the Bible along with what's going on in the news, because we're now living in biblical times.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I'm gonna try and I'm just going to read something in a minute, and I think this is what's really, really important. So it just ties in. I'm just going to show you a book that I'm working through at the moment. Okay, I was sent a link the other day to a particular woman in America who I won't name. I have been in the same space of her very recently, but someone was saying, listen to this person because of the prophecy they're saying about France and the prophecy about they're saying about the UK. Well, to be honest, it doesn't take much to be a bit of a Sherlock and work out what is happening, right? So I'll just say that. But I also said to this particular group, you'll be better off reading this. So we have discussed the Fabian Society. Tavistock I am looking at because of a particular project that I'm up to at the moment. So Huxley, Aldous Huxley. Huxley concluded as the final revolution. Huxley's cohort in the 1950s experimented with psychotropic drugs. Dr. Timothy Leary of Harvard University's psychology department provided another glimpse into the perverted minds of Russell, Huxley, Frankfurt School crowd. You and I have mentioned the Frankfurt School in our conversation. In flashback, his autobiographical account of the Harvard University psychedelic drug project, Leary quoted Huxley. These brain drugs, mass-produced in the laboratories, will bring about vast changes in society. This will happen with or without you or me. All we can do is spread the word. The obstacle to this evolution, Timothy, is the Bible, Leary then added. We had run up against the Judeo-Christian commitment to one God, what you've just said, one religion, one reality that has cursed Europe for centuries and America since our founding days. Drugs that open the mind to multiple realities inevitably lead to a polytheistic view of the universe. We sense that the time for a new humanist religion based on intelligence, good-natured pluralism, and scientific paganism had arrived. Last few lines. In 1954, Huxley published a study of conscious expansion through mescaline, The Doors of Perception, the first manifesto of psychedelic drug cult. The Doors rock band borrowed their name from the psychedelic manifesto. Huxley borrowed the title from William Blake's poem. If the doors of perception were cleansed, all things would appear infinite. Aldous Huxley assembled a number of essays that he had written for Newsday and published them collectively as Brave New World Revisited, in which he described society where the first aim of the rulers is at all costs to keep their subjects from making trouble. Soma, anybody? He described a likely future, the complete organized society, the abolition of free will by methodical conditioning, the servitude made acceptable by regular doses of chemically induced happiness. He also predicted democracies would change their nature, quaint old forms, election, parliaments, supreme courts will remain, but the underlying substance will be non-violent totalitarianism. Democracy and freedom will be the theme of every broadcast and editorial, but democracy and freedom in a strictly Pickwickian, i.e. not literal, sense. Meanwhile, the ruling oligarchy, last few lines, and its highly trained elite of soldiers, police, thought manufacturers and mind manipulators will quietly run the show as they see fit. How different is that from what we have today? Well, Daniel Oesterlin, in this fantastic book, asked that question. How different is that from what we have today? Bluntly now, in 2026, we might have said something slightly different in 2015 before the 2 years of stupidity. Not, I don't want to censor. Well, here we are, mon ami. Here we are. Here we are at this point. So when you have that, isn't it rather interesting? This particular book, Mary Wynn, The Plug-in Drug, Television, Children and the Family. This was first published in 1977. I'm not going to do the maths. Beautiful people who are watching this, you can do the maths. And while I'm just saying it, without sounding a bit rude, please share this. Please listen. This is not let's sit down, watch with mother. Let's sit down and explain some reality that is profoundly uncomfortable for so many, it seems, within the church, Nathan. But outside there in the real world, there are many people that are awake. You and I have said this constantly over the last couple of years in conversations. There are more people who are awake outside the church than there are inside the church. And I will just qualify this. And at this point, when people give us the privilege of watching this, maybe loads of people are about to switch off. Bottom line is this. We're not going anywhere. We are going to go through. Do you think I'm comfortable with that? No. Do Nathan and I have conversations off camera that go, this is really riling us? Because they want to provoke the civil war. They want to provoke the chaos. They've been doing that in all that they've mandated for so many years. So here we are. Starmer is going. He's stepping down. The technocrat, the person that Nathan, you and I did not vote for in 4th of July 2024. But let's just remind ourselves of something when you talked about digital ID. Tony Blair, Labour, New Labour, William Hague, who they're both pushing a digital ID. William Hague, the man that on Times Radio has just said, I'll just say it, not asking you to react, said, well, I wouldn't vote. I wouldn't invite Tommy Robinson to come and talk at the Oxford Union. A man who has been pushing digital ID. So very interesting. The seat that he was in, where you step aside and then you let Sunak in. There is manipulating and things going on in the background so much in our country that things are really, really coming to a head. So Starmer steps down, and now it seems after the Makerfield by-election, yes, I'm stating the obvious that everyone knows, that Andy Burnham, the mayor of Manchester, has won. because the Liberal Democrats, it seems, the Greens, everyone else, except, of course, Reform, Restore, I'll just say that as a fact, they fought the election and everyone else stood to let Andy Burnham have a run. Remember, Andy Burnham was at one point a member of Parliament and inside the Labour Party. Andy Burnham, that's been, according to the wonderful, wonderful, brilliant Charlotte Gill, who is the equivalent of the British Doge, has been doing, he did a course of Bloomberg mayoral calls run by Bloomberg, along with a few others. He'd be very aware. So let's just say this before I hand it back to you, my friend, and not to give away how I know, because it's obvious. So Tony Blair comes in. Things can only get better. I'm not going to sing the rest of it because I don't want to put anyone else to sleep. But if people want to reenact that and jig around their rooms, then please do that. However, things can only get better. Tony Blair, the new Labour project, the third way, public-private partnership of political control, and to some, the new word for fascism. Look it up, work it out, go back in history. So there he is, he comes in, thinking that basically it was like ground zero. And then they started taking every single thing that has worked in this country for a good 1,200 years apart. Legally, all the rights that we've fought for, common law, etc., all of this, changing everything apart. Then we have, by 2010-11, we have Conservatives come in. Really? Really? What have they conserved? What have they done to turn anything about that in the European Court of Human Rights? All the other stuff that Blair and Jack Straw signed us up to. What have they actually reversed? Nothing. Absolutely zero. Nada. They haven't done any of it. And then we have Keir Starmer, Director of Public Prosecutions at the time of Jimmy Savile. All of this. People don't believe me. Go and do the research. Work it out. So I'm not saying anything to get us into trouble. I'm just stating a fact. But it seems that stuff was potentially put across his desk, but he didn't have enough information in which to prosecute. So Starmer, the technocrat, Starmer, look at what he's done to the farmers. Look at the fact that he, with Lammy, wants to get rid of trial by jury. What about the fact that he wanted to get rid of payments to our old pensioners for heat? What about the fact that I have a funny feeling it's surveillance on steroids, and now I want to ban under 16s having access to social media, but I do want to encourage, we'd like to lower the vote to 16 so they can vote. You know where I'm going. This is complete lunacy after the awful, appalling events of Southport, Lucy Connolly being put in jail in the way that it did other people. And I'm not advocating violence at all. But look at all this crime after crime that this particular man has done. Doesn't seem to have been put the country first, and then he recognizes Palestine in this two-state delusion, etc. All obsessed with that. We remember the speech that he gave in the Westminster Hall there, and how he was mauled after by a certain individual, and all of this kind of thing going on. People don't believe me? Look it up. So Starmer, they vote to get rid of him. Andy Burnham is stepping in because it seems that over 400 Labour MPs, you can't choose a new leader amongst them. Think about that for a moment. You can't choose a new leader. There doesn't seem to be anyone that could do it.
Yeah.
So Andy Burnham is coming in. And as dear man has been looking into the grooming gangs in the Oldham area for many, many years, whose name has just gone from me, the fact that he has been trying to hold Andy Burnham, like others, to account on that issue in that area. There's clips all over YouTube about being part of, a supposed listening exercise, and the dear lady standing up with her phone in hand, shouting at him, saying, "You've done nothing. What are you doing?" So this is where we're at. This is where we're at because we are in one sense, I'd say politically, unless God, but God, Nathan, gives us a break, I'd say that we are really nearly at the end. And I'll just quickly say this. Sorry, and this is what I was going to say before I pass it back. Devolution. Blair created the Scottish Parliament. They created the Welsh Parliament, dissolving power. And of course, with what happened in Northern Ireland as well. This whole thing of devolution, that's why they want mayors. So many councils up and down this country are bankrupt. They've deliberately bankrupted them. Now they want to give the power back with mayors. They want to devolve. He wants to take 10 Downing Street, take it up north. They want to devolve power. When we look at what happened with the BBC, kicking that out of London, certain reasons, understandably, then creating Manchester and all this. And bluntly, if you don't have the same opinions, then you're not going to fit in. You're not going to be allowed to. Your thought. You can't be a Bible believing Christian who is also a conservative politically, because I'd say in the true sense of that word, if you read that, that is what you will then conclude. But conservatives, are they? So that's what we have, devolution, giving power back to regions. The extremity of that is we'll just give power back to your street. The extremity of that is we'll put you in small towns, small villages, so you can't drive anywhere, as you quite rightly say. So this is where we are at. And then you attend a local church, I'm just going to re-say this, which we're not going to name, but someone says to you, oh, I've been listening to so-and-so about this. And you're going, I wrote about that a couple of years ago. People, it's not about us. And I'm going to admit there is unbelievable amount of frustration that I feel on a bad day. However, people are not listening. The Bible's unfolding. I'll just quickly say this, having had that discussion with John Haller. When people say, are we in the beast system? It's a narrowing and a narrowing and a pincer movement and a pincer movement that is going to potentially, and then it will do, it is going to push us out. If anyone is a company director and they've tried to go on Companies House recently to verify their identity and all the hassle about that, if anyone's had to deal with council services or find out this online, and it's just the amount of time it takes and the hassle, you'll begin to relate to what I'm saying. Verify this, jump through this hoop. It's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming to then, as you lay out, my friend, you won't be able to barter or sell. What does then this mean? So many of us are in families where they've not accepted what we've had to say for a long, long time. Many people are in denial. I think it's that phrase of cognitive dissonance. They don't want to face it. We want the freedom, of course, but are certain things unfolding that the Bible's been talking about? Yes. So I'm going to shut up, my friend. I do apologize. I didn't necessarily expect to go in that direction. However, the Fabian Society, 1865. Nathan and I talked about this. Real. Tavistock, Council of Foreign Relations, all real. This is not a conspiracy. This is real. They are principalities and powers. They are not just affecting our country. They're also affecting America and affecting other countries. Because as we've just seen, this is a statement. As the Unite the Kingdom rally that Tommy Robinson organised, headed up, people were banned from coming into this country because this government doesn't like what they've got to say. If we go back, just a reminder to Theresa May, she banned Robert Spencer, an expert on Islam, coming into this country, along with Pamela Geller, to lay a wreath at Lee Rigby's, the dear site of, sadly, of that man's death in East London. That is what they were coming to do. But Theresa May then banned them. Theresa May, under her leadership, as far as if I remember, we had Mark Carney as head of the Bank of England, who has just been slipped in to be the leader of Canada. So, just throwing all that out, that sounds really negative, but what I'm trying to do is to give people an overview. Just remember, when the previous leader of Jacinda Ardern of New Zealand says, you're to come to us as the government for your news. You're to come to us for your news. What does that say? What does that say? Where are we at? In Canada, if you're in Canada, algorithms mean you can't receive certain information or easily communicate to see certain links. Where are we at? Where we're being told, because basically the enemy doesn't want anything to do. If the enemy is God, these people, the enemy is working through, because it's the whole thing of the Judeo-Christian culture is an offense to him. And that's what we're dealing with. Nathan, I'm going to shut up, even if I shut up for the rest of the show, and I give the floor to you. And I do apologize for just ranting on a little bit.
No apologies. Let me try and bring some of those things and show a bit more how they're connected. So you mentioned Burnham. He was the mayor of Manchester for 10 years. So there's a document done by Leeds University, The Future of Urban Consumption in a 1.5C World. It's called the C40 Cities.
Yep.
This was done in 2017. And it's one of it says here in there, it says, the report demonstrates that mayors have an even bigger role and opportunity to help avert climate emergency than previous thought. So it gives mayors authority, and it wants to set up all these mayors so that they can control how we consume, how we move, how we do things. And let me just give you an example. So I mentioned cow farts. I mentioned that they don't want us to eat as much meat. They're trying to stop us from eating meat. And they want us, as in the World Economic Forum said, we want you to eat the bugs. They want us to eat processed food, which is bug-based. And this is really bad for you, but what it actually is it's the diet of a slave. It's the diet of someone who is being in slavery to control you so you can't rebel. But let me just read something on page 40 of this report. It says their progressive target by 2030 is that the average person eats 16 kilograms of meat per year.
Hold on a minute.
So per year, so 16 kilograms of meat per year. So what's that work out? Let me just do a quick maths here, because if you divide that by 52, what are you getting? Well, you're getting, you're not getting a lot of meat a week, are you?
No.
Okay, 16 kilograms per month. So per year. So what you're basically allowed is 1.2 something like kilograms per month, which is absolutely nothing. But their ambitious target by 2030 is that you have no meat consumption. The other thing is,
and just for the record, within the veterinary world, there is a plant-based dog food available. I'm not going to name a company. A plant-based dog food.
So they're also pushing the genetically modified meat, which is made in a lab or 3D printed. And this is going to be passed in the UK, I believe, in the next, I want to say within the next 6 months, but I know it's going through in the next year.
So, and by the way, are we, when Burnham comes in, are we going to have another election? We're going to immediately have an election?
No, we're not, are we? Of course we're not, because what he's done is he's taking out the sting for people who had enough of Starmer. So now we're getting someone far worse.
Yes, we are.
They also say that you should only have 19 kilograms per year of milk or its equivalent. That's by 2030. The ambitious target is zero.
Oh, you're talking about Agenda 21, Agenda 30.
2030, but
Oh,
this is the
wow.
C40. So the mayors are pushing this. They also let's look at this.
I thought this was all conspiracy. Nathan.
Exactly, but this is in their documents. They also want that you can only buy their progressive target is 8 new clothing items per person per year, but they would really like it to be 3. Can you imagine?
So, wow. So that's the high street's done, and
Yes.
you're just restricted online. So I'll be a bit stuffed with my 40 lovely t-shirts then
And
if I've
then
got to
and
replace.
then they want to reduce ownerships of cars, and they also want to reduce mileage of cars. And the report goes on and on. And travel. They don't want you to travel. So by 2030, the progressive target is 1 short haul return flight less than 1,500 kilometers every 2 years per person. The ambitious one is that, but every 3 years. So really, you can only go on a short journey every 3 years.
So could you just reiterate what this report is and where people can find it?
I'll send you the link so we can put it in the bottom. But it's if you just type in the future of urban consumption in a 1.5 C World C40 cities headline report, and it's there for you.
And just as the whole thing where they think, okay, this could be completely, our show could be completely dated by the time it goes out. I will be getting this out ASAP. But he's replacing a prime minister that really wasn't backing the defence budget that was needed, and now it's rumoured that he's on about going and being head of NATO. I mean, the irony of this, yes, I don't know if you've heard that one. The irony of this, remember Mark Rutte, who's in charge of NATO, was he Prime Minister of Holland for 10, 12 years, maybe 14 years. And look at what he did with the Dutch farmers and everything else. So they're all exactly the same. It's one door in, one door out. They're all the same. So yeah, I mean, the man that couldn't even get out a ship out of these dear isles to then go to Cyprus, to Akatiri, an area that you and I know. So this just an outrage. So really, this really is sticking it in the face to the British public, isn't it, sir?
I think so, and I think with Burnham saying he wants to take what he did in as a mayor, take it and implement it throughout the United Kingdom, then this is what he's bringing. He's bringing the C40 agenda. He's bringing the 2030 agenda. But also, if we put that within a digital ID and a digital currency, they can enforce everything they want, like I said earlier. So they can enforce that you will only travel 1,500 kilometers every 3 years. Because if you want to go book an airline ticket, you can't book one if you've already had your quota because your currency is programmable. If you've bought 4 items of clothing and you want to go and buy another one because something's happened to your old one, you won't be allowed to. So people need to really, and people might go, could that really happen? Well,
it already is.
But let's just take a step back. So you mentioned the book, The Plug-in Drug. And I've mentioned this before, but let's just recap. The TV was designed to play in a certain resolution with so many flickers. So when it first came out, it sent you into an alpha state hypnotic trance within a couple of minutes. The new TVs do that within seconds. And this is in A-level psychology textbooks. In fact, the patent of the first TV told you this. And once it sends you into that alpha state, your firewall of your brain, which stops anything from programming you, is shut down. So now you become programmable. Wait a minute, what do you watch on a TV? A TV program. Because you're being programmed.
And what's it called? Tell
Yes.
Television. Right.
So it programs you. And one A-level textbook put it like this, I'm paraphrasing. It says, it's like sowing seeds into a garden and then watering them with everything you watch again and again, and it produces all this crop. Well, the crop is whatever they're programming you. But it also, what happens is, because you're in an alpha state, it becomes like a real memory into your conscious, into your mind, and so you don't challenge it. You take it as being true. So the drug which people have been on through the television has been programming people. So people have been programmed to accept this. That's why you said earlier, come and get your information from the government. Why the government? Because they're going to program you. They're going to give you all this information. If you go to the alternative media, it's going to give you maybe some truth like we're doing now. So hence why in the United Kingdom, and not just our country, other countries have done it. They want to create an ID for going on the internet to stop all those people who put out those images which are offensive because of children and the child grooming. Wait a minute. We've had child grooming not on the internet, and they've known nothing about it. We've had people in this country being arrested with thousands of indecent images of children, yes, and they absolutely get let go. They're allowed out. And these people are in the police, these people are in other professions, and they're allowed to walk out. The people who rape children are kind of given less sentences than people who post something not nice on social media. So you don't need to have this ID bill to control things. You just need a really good police system to prosecute people and have a severe deterrent that if you abuse a child and rape them, then actually you're going to be incarcerated for the rest of your life. Oh, that's against their human rights. What about the child who was raped for so many years?
Absolutely.
So this is awful. But wait a minute. Shall we go there? Yes. What about our government who say that you cannot watch certain things on the TV? But wait a minute, when you're 4, when you're 5 or 6, if you think you're something else, you can have this medication. But wait a minute, at the age of 16, 17, 18, you cannot go on the internet at certain times because you might meet some nasty people. Oh,
but you have been given a drug that's called a puberty blocker. Let's just say it, and then it's just waiting, and then you can have. Then you're given cross-sex hormones.
Yes.
So let's just put this out on the record.
And then eventually they go to Dr. Mengele.
And then, yeah. So let's just, absolutely. So let's just put this out on the record because I have been away, hence why we may not have been able to have a conversation like this easily. So I'm in the middle of producing a documentary on the transgender issue. So I'll just say that. If you wish to support that endeavor, then go to imageunshaken.com and drop some shekels, pounds, dollars in that direction. That would be amazing. So I'm just going to say that because, as I've said it publicly on other broadcasts, and you've just given that name, Mengele, he was known as a doctor. He did experiments on children in outfits and adults. Very fascinated by twins, the people that were in outfits and other concentration camps, mainly, if not 98% Jewish, 99% Jewish. There were other people maybe in there that may not have been Jewish, but 99% there. So Mengele did that, and there is no, in my own mind, no difference between that and what he's done. With people think that it's perfectly acceptable to then do double mastectomies and all the rest on children, on young people, in the way that we have, to then slow down and stop puberty and all these things. So it's the fact that it's an attack on we are made in God's image. Please correct me, Nathan, if I'm wrong, but that is where we're at. So I'm just going to say that, put that out there. And then suddenly, all the criticism, all the rest can start. But the fact is, like in America, like here, people need to speak up about these things. And also, this government, as Starmer leaves, trying to create a complete firestorm of everything, as he leaves, they're pushing forward legislation in regard to stopping conversion therapy. E.g., as a parent, if you have a child that says, I'm a girl, but I think I'm a boy, and vice versa, and that you as a parent start to say, no, you're not, and start to say, we need to discuss this and in a loving way and go through that whole process, you could be reported, whether you're a teacher, whatever position of authority, and if you have the gumption to question this, you could be reported, and it's rumored to say that you could face 5 years. Now, tyranny, the left-hand path, and as I've been reminded recently, there is no left and right paradigm. It's a fight between good and evil, and that's where we are at. So suddenly I feel as though I'm living in East Germany on steroids. One thing they didn't have in East Germany, I don't think, is the whole transgender agenda. Or maybe I'm wrong. Or you used to treat those people as transvestites. So, and not too far long ago, you might have said that this is a mental illness. This is where we are at. You are more qualified in the whole area of psychology on paper, Nathan, than I am, but people seem to have forgotten common sense, I think, my friend. So the fact that surgeons are performing these operations means that we're giving too much power to some doctors, and some doctors are behaving, as I said, like Mengele. And where is their moral code? I'll hand back to you, sir.
No. I think really we are seeing this beast system come about. We're seeing everything step up. We're seeing an attack on everything which is, like you said, Judeo-Christian values. But also, you mentioned earlier about Aldous Huxley, and you read the book from the book Tavistock Institute. All this is nothing more than the transhumanist agenda, which his brother Julius Huxley said he created a new religion. What shall we call this? He went, we'll call this transhumanism.
Yes.
And this will be a religion of science with psychology at its spiritual arm. And where shall we draw the inspiration from this? He said, I studied the Christian faith from its rises and ebbs so that we can draw from it to get what we want to create this scientific religion. And both Aldous and Julian drew on that to create what they're talking about. And this was embedded within the UN. We've talked about this before, the UN education. Huxley was the first president. He brought about his transhumanist agenda.
UNESCO, the first head of UNESCO.
That's right. And so really what we're seeing is a scientific psychological religion, which is really building the way, paving the way for the beast system. And we also need to just say something, and that is, we have no defender of the faith in this nation anymore, because our king is not my king, but is supposed to be the king of this nation, has relinquished his title, regardless if we agree with him being it or not, and we have views on that. But he has relinquished to say he will not defend the true faith of the one true God who sent his son to die for us. He's now said he'll defend faith. And we saw this when he would not do anything for Easter. Will he give a Christmas address anymore? Well, we know Jesus wasn't born at Christmas. And we know that he didn't die at Easter, that it was different dates. The Catholic Church changed that.
Yep.
But the fact that he stood, or that the monarch stood for the Christian faith in some way, Now he's not. And he champions Islam, which is a demonic religion of the devil, because they pray to a God and one of their prayers is, "Oh, schemer, great schemer, scheme for me." Well, the one who schemes and the one who lies in the Bible is called the devil. He is the father of lies. And so we have him championing the religion, which is really an antichrist spirit at its heart, and is not actually championing, which he says is his faith, the Christian faith. Well, if you cannot champion the faith you progress to believe in, then you don't believe in it as being the truth. Because there is only one way to God. There is not many. All religions are not the same. There's only one true religion, and that is the God of the Bible, who sent his son to die for us. Everything else is a counterfeit. But we have no one defending it in this nation. And we also don't have many church leaders defending it, because they have watered down the word of God. They have become so secular that when you walk into those places, they really seem to be more of the world than anything else. But we're called to be light and we're called to be salt into the world, so that people can hear the good news of Jesus Christ and then can start walking a life according to the Bible. But when we rip pages out this Bible, that's what people do, then actually it's no longer the word of God people are preaching. They're showing partiality. And that is why we're in the mess we're in. That is why we've got the two-tier policing, which is because we're under judgment. And the Bible tells us clearly, when you turn your back on God, then the alien becomes the head, you become the tail. They rape your women, they take your finances, they take your homes, everything what is happening. The only solution is that we cry out to the living God in prayer and repentance, and we turn back to him as believers. And I'm talking about Christians doing this. I'm not talking about the secular world doing this. I'm talking about the church needs to get on its knees in repentance and turn back and say sorry for showing partiality to the word of God. But sadly, many churches say, hey, there's a revival in the UK. Revival of what? Is it true Christian faith which we're seeing people turn to, or is it a watered down counterfeit? And so we're in this state now. But that's where we are today.
No, you don't have to apologize. I'm just keeping an eye on the time, because when you said about the person who calls him King Charles, the man that, there he is at COP. I can't find the book, but there's a book written by Joan Vion, who's no longer with us, who wrote a book called Prince Charles, the Sustainable Prince. It's very obvious what he has been up to. And of course, just bear in mind the influence that he has on Prince William, and who runs the Earthshot Prize and all of this. People will see behind me that there's a book by Rupert Darwell called Green Tyranny. I recommend people buy that book and read that book. He's someone I'd love to interview, and he is been on Talk TV talking about this and other issues. So this is where Charlie Boy is at. So just out of interest, last sort of few minutes. So in 2023, I was at the Parliament of World Religions, where certain people like Richard Raw, etc., are going, we need to take hallucinogenic drugs to find Jesus. Do me a favor. And people over here follow some of his work. 2024, I was at Burning Man in front of a guy who's saying, I've got a war chest of £80 million to convert to legalize hallucinogenic drugs in America. Burning Man's been going on for 28 years. It's the biggest cultural changer in America, and not enough Christians go there to find out what's going on. Not enough Christians in America go to the Parliament of World Religions and find out what's going on. Many people don't even know it exists. First one was in 1893, second one in 1993. These are the cultural changes. Burning Man has events around the world, including here in the UK. What is all that about? The cultural changes, cultural changing. And another day we can have an interesting discussion about the Celts an interesting discussion about paganism, an interesting discussion in this between us about our history and where we have in fact as a nation come from. So that's who Charlie is, and he attended his first meeting by the World Wildlife Federation with his dad, I believe, in 1970. Remember, his dad was asked, Prince Philip, so if you had another life, what would you come back as? And he said, I would come back as a virus. I can't find that link on YouTube. I need to look more. But he did say that I will come back as a virus. Now, the Fabian Society.
Just one moment, Matt. You just mentioned the the World Animal Federation.
Yeah, World
Wildlife Federation. Huxley was also one of the founders of that.
Yes, he was.
After he left the UN from his role because his transhumanist philosophy was kind of upsetting people in some areas. So he then went off to help set up that organization with, was he a prince from a foreign country? I can't remember his name, but he was also involved in, I think, the Bilderbergs.
Bilderberg, you're about to say that. Yeah. I thought you were about to say. No, we're trying to think of his name, but I just, at this point, I just really encourage everyone to go and do the research, turn off other people that are going. There's a great, massive revival around the corner. I don't necessarily see it like that. I'm not saying that I would not want it, because there is no doubt about it. A true democracy thrives when there are many, many people that are converted to Christ. And also because of a high trust society, that's how it thrives. But going back to Charlie Boy, that is what he has been up to behind the scenes for many, many years, and suddenly is defender of faith. This is the man that would go off into the Australian desert with Van der Post, who later on in life became rather a bit of a questionable individual. People need to do some research on him, but he would go off and do that. So these are the things, these are the principalities and the things that we have been dealing with as a nation. Remember, Huxleys are related to Henry Huxley, who was Darwin's bulldog. So I'll just throw out this little thought. Karl Marx was asked, who is your nemesis? Remember, Karl Marx was over here writing the Communist Manifesto, British Library and all this. And he said, there's a man in South London who is my nemesis. And the man who was his nemesis was Charles Spurgeon. Look it up, people. Charles Spurgeon. And I would just underline this again without sounding a bit sort of vitriolic, but we are giving up our time to sit here and have a conversation to educate people on these issues. And people might think, oh, that's the past, that's irrelevant. We're just waiting for Jesus to return. Absolutely, we're waiting for Jesus to return, and we need to be about our Father's business. We thought we were going to have a week away. Sadly, various things have conspired not to have that happen. We still, in the last sort of 2 minutes, Nathan, we're really coming against the wire. We are still planning a trip to Israel. We'll push that back in March. Very often I've said to my American friends, said to America, get off your couches, turn the football off. Sorry, it might be the World Cup. Turn it off and start paying attention to what is going on. I'm not saying that you watch video after video after video on social media. I'm working hard to not do that and come off it. Plus, we watch things to be informed. But get off your couch. And I'm talking to me. We all need to know, God, what are you asking us to do right at this time? So just commit all of this. We need to commit all of that. Nathan, I'm going to give you 1 minute to have the last word. Manami, thank you.
Well, all I would say is everything we've talked about is because there's a battle, like I said, going on for the people's souls. The most important thing people can do is pick up the Bible and start to read it. In the days ahead, we are going to see famines, we are going to see pestilence, we are going to see wars, a global war. The only thing which will ensure your security is by surrendering your life to God, accepting Jesus as your Lord and Savior, which you might lose your life in the coming days, but your eternity is secured where you'll spend it with God. And there is only one God. So while you're seeing all these things happen, do not put your trust in men. Do not put your trust in institution. Put it in God himself, because he will not let you down.
Amen. I'm going to play us out. Nathan, you and I will have a conversation of briefness on the other side. But please, thank you for watching. If you've got this far, thank you. Thank you for not turning us off. But please share this. And and please stop being so lethargic. Because believe it or not, we don't actually have to do this, but we are compelled to do it because we feel it's the right thing to do. All right. I'll play us out. Blessings. Take care. Bye.